Welcome to Rapid Movie Recaps, the channel that gives you all the fabulous cliches and dramatic twists you never knew you needed. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and turn notifications on because who needs a real life when you can obsess over movie content instead? Oh, and don't forget to check out our merchandise because you know, corporate sellout and all that jazz. Introducing Alethea, the totally relatable British scholar who somehow doesn't have a cat. Weird, right? Anyway, she's off to Istanbul to bore everyone with her fancy conference on science and myths, but not before a very questionable encounter with a glowing man at the airport. Spoiler alert, nobody else can see him. Alethea's friends laugh it off as a djinn, because of course they do. Fast forward to the conference, where Alethea spots yet another strange glowing man in the audience, the old gods turning into science. Old myths as metaphors? Yawn. The glowing man agrees, calls it rubbish, and tackles her on stage. It's like watching a football match, but with more obscure academic references. Alethea wakes up, gets an undeserved round of applause, and her friends whisk her away. Ignoring all common sense, Alethea shakes off her friends' concerns and goes on an antique shop spree downtown. You know, as one does after almost being assaulted by an invisible man. She stumbles upon a curious little blue bottle because who needs expensive, meaningful souvenirs when you can buy dusty trinkets instead? And thus, the adventure begins, or so we hope. Picture this. Alethea wakes up in her hotel room and decides to wash her new blue bottle because, you know, hygiene. Lo and behold, she accidentally frees a djinn because who needs coffee to wake you up when you've got a giant mythical being in your room? After a thrilling game of language roulette, Alethea finds out that the djinn speaks Greek. Good thing she took that elective in college, am I right? The djinn's all like, "Fear not, mortal. I shall grant you 3 wishes. But no wishing for more wishes, eternal life, or the end of all suffering, cause that's just cheating." While he's chatting away, he touches everything in the room, learns English from the TV, and basically becomes a language learning app on steroids. Alethea, in true indecisive fashion, can't decide on her wishes. She opts for story time instead, telling the djinn about her super secret childhood friend, the mysterious supernatural boy. They had their own secret language and everything. Adorable, right? But as she documented their adventures, she started doubting his existence and feeling downright silly. Eventually, she burned it all and poof, he disappeared. Classic case of supernatural ghosting. But wait, breakfast arrives, and nothing ruins a deep conversation with a mythical being like a hotel omelette. Alethea makes the djinn disappear before opening the door because let's be honest, nobody needs that kind of judgment over their scrambled eggs. Alethea, our indecisive wishmaker, slaps on a do not disturb sign and turns around to find that Djinn has not only shrunk, but has also given her hotel breakfast a fabulous makeover. Because what's a magical being if not your personal chef? Eager to stall on the whole wish-making thing, Alethea asks Djinn about his life story. Brace yourselves, folks, this one's a doozy. Djinn's had 3 stints in bottle jail, all because he can't resist a good chat with the ladies. The first time around, he got tangled up with his cousin Sheba, the half-djinn queen with hairy legs that would make a yeti jealous. Djinn was her plaything, her confidant, and he hoped to be her hubby one day. But then King Solomon came along, because fairy tales always need a love triangle. Djinn tried to warn Sheba about Solomon's sketchy motives, but she was all, "No mortal man can conquer me." Famous last words, am I right? Sheba fell for Solomon, waxed her legs for the big wedding night. Ouch! And soon enough, Solomon caught wind of her magical dalliance. Using his own magical prowess, he trapped Djinn in a bottle and yeeted it into the Red Sea via bird delivery service. Djinns don't sleep, and Djinn spent the first 100 years of his bottle time raging against his fate and praying to every god under the sun. But after a century of disappointment, he went all reverse psychology on himself, hoping that wanting nothing would bring peace. Spoiler alert, it didn't. Djinns without wants are basically on the brink of death, so back to wish-making we go. Alethea dishes out her life story: success, no family, a failed marriage, a miscarriage, and a divorce. Her ex moved on and left her with emotional baggage and a box of his stuff. She admits to being bad at reading feelings, which might explain her love for stories they help her feel. But does she want her husband back? Nah, freedom tastes sweeter than stale love. Thank you very much. But Alethea's no fool. She knows the dangers of djinn wishes, twisted outcomes and cautionary tales galore. Despite Djinn swearing he's honorable, she can't help but wonder if it's better to wish for nothing. Bad move. Djinn swells up in pain, and suddenly we've got a magical being in crisis. But wishes must be made, and to drive the point home, Djinn shares the story of his second incarceration. Djinn's bottle was found in a fish by some fishermen who, lacking basic geology skills, mistook it for a rock and tossed it aside. After a thrilling game of hot potato, the rock wound up in a wall, where our heroine Gulton discovered it while trying to spy on Prince Mustafa. Gulton, a slave in the palace's concubine courtyard, did what any girl in her position would do. She wished to become one of Mustafa's concubines. Way to aim high, Gulton. With her first wish granted, Gulton hid the bottle under a heavy tile in the secret bathroom, because why not? Djinn wandered around the palace, learning about human shenanigans, and stumbled upon Hurrem, the Sultan's favorite slave and master manipulator. Hurrem wanted her sons, not Mustafa, to inherit the throne, so she kept tabs on the prince. Djinn, ever the concerned Genie, tried to warn Gulton, but she was too busy wishing for Mustafa's baby to care. Meanwhile, the Sultan's warriors grew concerned that their leader was going soft. Hurrem, always one step ahead, convinced the Sultan that Mustafa was plotting to take the throne. Gulton, in a display of astounding subtlety, flaunted her baby bump around the palace, convinced she was carrying the next prince. Oh, Gulton, you sweet summer child. The Sultan, in a stunning display of fatherly love, killed Mustafa without even asking about his loyalties. Djinn, ever the concerned Genie, tried to warn Gulton that she was next on the hit list. But Gulton, the poster child for poor decisions, ran straight into the assassin's hands. Djinn attempted to help, but an assassin with a devilish connection blocked him. Gulton ended up swimming with the fishes, and Djinn was too late to save her. Thanks to Gulton's unmade third wish, Djinn was stuck in the human world, unable to return to the realm of the Djinn. Alithia finds this highly ironic, as it's exactly the kind of cautionary tale she's been talking about. But Djinn reminds her that no wishes equals doom for him, so the story must go on. For a century, Djinn wandered as an invisible force, trying to get someone's attention. Finally, Princes Murad and Ibrahim felt his presence and stumbled upon the secret bathroom. But before they could uncover the bottle, their mother, Sultan's widow Kosum, interrupted them. Murad, a hairy-legged descendant of Sheba, caught Djinn's interest, so he tried to get the prince's attention again. Murad became king at the ripe old age of 14, and his life was all politics and war. Meanwhile, Kosum locked adult Ibrahim in a room with a bevy of voluptuous beauties, hoping he'd produce a male heir to secure the family's hold on the throne. Ibrahim, always one for life's finer things, embraced his new role with gusto. When Murad returned from war, his soul tainted by blood and trauma, he considered offing his brother Ibrahim. But Kosum, ever the strategist, convinced him that Ibrahim was too lazy to pose a threat. To keep Murad distracted, Kosum plied him with alcohol and hired storytellers. Murad, not a fan of subpar entertainment, killed the storytellers who failed to amuse him. But one old man managed to charm the king and became his only friend. Alas, the old man died, and Murad turned to the bottle for solace. In his weakened state, Djinn finally caught his attention. Murad rediscovered the secret bathroom, but he was too weak to open the door. Murad continued to drink himself into oblivion, never waking up again. And so, Djinn remained trapped and alone, something Alithia could relate to all too well. Picking up where we left off, Ibrahim, the professional womanizer, had to be dragged out of his cushy life to become sultan. But don't worry, he still found time to appoint his favorite concubine, Sugar Lump, as governor of Damascus. In her new position, Sugar Lump discovered Djinn's bottle, but she didn't trust the desperate, smelly Djinn, so she wished him back into the bottle and into the Bosphorus. Classic. Alithia, now even more convinced that wishing is a horrible idea, thinks about passing Djinn off to someone else. But Djinn is like, no way, I'm not going back in that bottle. So, Alithia tries making some half-hearted wishes, like sipping tea. Shockingly, they don't work. Djinn insists the wishes must come from the heart. An argument breaks out. Djinn calls Alithia a coward, and she considers wishing they never met. This causes Djinn to freak out, electronics to malfunction, and his bottle to break. Alithia is like, this has happened before, right? So Djinn dives into his third and final tale. Enter Zapir, a child bride married to a wealthy merchant who already had two older, jealous wives. She felt like everyone in the house mocked her. Then, her husband gifted her the bottle, which he found in a fish. After thanking her husband, Zapir opened the bottle. Djinn, noticing Zapir's intelligence, shared his story, which led her to share all the things she built in her free time. Unfortunately for Zapir, she was a woman, and nobody took her seriously. Talk about a bummer, right? So she wished for as much knowledge as possible, and Djinn was happy to grant it. They hid the books inside magic bottles, and Djinn taught Zapir all kinds of sciences and languages. They fell in love, but you know what they say, there's no love without a little chaos. The peer's second wish was to see the world as Djinns do, which not only helped her solve a pesky math problem, but also got her pregnant with Djinn's baby. Djinn was thrilled, but he didn't want to leave Zapir or head to the realm of Djinn, so he stopped her from making a third wish. Zapir, feeling trapped, got super mad. Their arguments escalated, and Djinn would retreat to his bottle for some me time. But one day, Zapir reached her breaking point and wished to forget Djinn completely. Presto, she forgot him, and Djinn was stuck in a bottle yet again. Now, back to Alethea. After hearing Djinn's tales, she decides she's meant to love him. She wishes for their solitudes to be together, and Djinn accepts. They spend a lovely night together, because who needs healthy communication when you can just wish for love, right? Alethea, ever the gracious host, offers Djinn a new bottle for their journey to London. At the airport, our dear Alethea has a mini meltdown. Fearing the scanner or conveyor belt might shatter Djinn's precious bottle. But fear not, our intrepid bottle survives the ordeal, leaving Alethea to breathe a sigh of relief. In London, Djinn struggles to adapt to the big city life, overwhelmed by the noise and electric waves in the air. But hey, who needs peace and quiet when you can live in the bustling metropolis of London, right? Despite the chaos, they settle into a content life together. When Alethea is at work, Djinn sneaks around to gawk at humanity's latest inventions, like advanced surgery techniques and the call lighter. Talk about a curious fellow. One fateful afternoon, Alethea comes home to find Djinn snoozing in the basement. Horror of horrors, Djinn's body is turning to ashes because, surprise, the city isn't exactly a healthy environment for a magical being. Alethea uses her second wish to make Djinn speak again, and they have a heart-to-heart. Alethea realizes she shouldn't have forced love between them, and in a moment of clarity, she decides to set Djinn free. After the bottle shatters and Djinn heads back to his realm, Alethea tucks away his earthly belongings next to her husband's, because, magical beings and mortal spouses are basically the same thing. Fast forward 3 years, and Alethea has channeled her artistic energy into creating a beautifully illustrated book filled with Djinn's tales. Just as she's admiring her masterpiece, guess who shows up? That's right, it's our favorite magical creature, Djinn. Now healthy and revitalized, he's decided to pop in from time to time, keeping Alethea company in a more natural way. To catch all the hilarity and heartfelt moments of this enchanting tale, click the link in the description below to purchase the movie. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride, and be sure to hit that like and subscribe button for more rapid movie recaps.